Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome. Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to a video to discuss the World Cup qualifying January roster, which has just dropped barely an hour ago. As you can see, I am not at home in LA. I'm currently in Kansas City, or in Kansas City rather, and I'm working. I'm at the coaches convention, the United Soccer Coaches Convention. This is my Airbnb. Filippo's downstairs right now doing the live stream, and I'm going to give my thoughts on this roster. Apologize for the lighting in here. It's not very good, but don't worry. You won't be looking at me mostly. You'll be looking at the slides with the players, and we'll be talking about it. Before I get into the roster, though, guys, I wanted to share something that I've been taking away from this convention. And, listening to different people talk and interviewing people and having some really top level coaches from around the world presenting passion. I'm taking, sometimes I feel like in America, there's a way that you should be passionate about soccer. And, I feel like, becoming a YouTuber and giving my thoughts, sometimes there's pressure to a certain amount of videos every week, consistency, try to be as measured and thoughtful as I can be, and, analyze myself sometimes too much maybe, and really ask myself, am I being honest? Am I being genuine? Am I letting my passion show through? Passion is what's driven me in soccer since I was 5 years old. I still remember the first day, that I played soccer. It's clearest memory of mine. And it's always been passion that drives me. And since moving back to the States, I've sometimes felt like that passion is fine and that's all very well and good, but should only be expressed in a certain way. So I guess the takeaway that I'm taking, and I want to share this with all of you, is never let anybody squelch the way in which you are passionate about the game. If there's anything we need more of in America, it's more passionate soccer fans, right? And passion is sometimes messy. Passion is not something that you can put in a box and define and restrict and say, this is, sure, I'm not talking about passion going over the top as we sometimes see in soccer, but I'm talking about more passion, more living and breathing soccer, which is really at the core, fundamentally who I am. And it's been refreshing and renewing to be at this convention and to absorb that passion. For example, I was talking to Lars Lagerbäck today, the former Iceland and Sweden coach. And he's an old man, I think in his 60s or 70s, but he lives and breathes soccer and he's so passionate about how he talks about it. And he's thoughtful and he's educated and he's intelligent, but it's just like passion oozing from his pores and it's contagious. And it reminds me of me in the sense that it reminds me of the passion that I carry. So quick message to you all, never let anybody squelch your passion. And you feel passionate about it, let it out. Let that carry you, okay? All right, let's dig into this roster here. I think the first thing before we dive into this roster is let's talk about Camp Cupcake, because that's directly related to this roster, right? When the Camp Cupcake roster came out, a lot of people said, oh my God, what an awful roster, right? And then the response was generally, relax, this is just a Camp Cupcake roster. It doesn't mean that much. And most of these guys will not be in the January qualifying roster. Well, turns out about half the roster is MLS guys, some of whom deserve to be there. Some of them probably not so much, and we'll get into that. But what we have learned, which I thought we would learn, is that Camp Cupcake matters because Gregg consistently values familiarity over performance, right? This has been very clear. If you spend lots of time in Camp Cupcake with Gregg, how you perform, not that important, as we saw in the Bosnia game. A lot of the people who performed poorly there are here. How you perform, not that important. The most important is that, you spend time with Gregg. Okay, so familiarity seems to be something that he values. And that's quite clear in this roster. Start off with the goalkeepers. So I'm going to ask a lot of questions with this roster. Zack, Steffen, Sean Johnson, Matt Turner, and Gabriel Slonina. Now, this is a big roster, 28-man roster. It's larger than any other roster that Gregg has called for World Cup qualifying. I appreciate that. I think that's a good thing. With 3 games and with the weather being what it is and Omicron being what it is, I'm happy that we brought a larger roster than we usually do. Now, whether or not we picked the right players and whether or not everybody on this team is able to contribute in a meaningful way to the team if they're on the field is another question. But good start that we have a big roster. 4 goalkeepers. Gabriel Slonina is here, which might come as somewhat of a surprise. I have 2 thoughts about this. Number one, we have a U20 camp happening simultaneously. The roster is supposed to be announced any day now. And they will be playing friendly games against, scrimmages rather, maybe not full-on friendlies, but scrimmages against other teams. I wonder if that might be better for Gabriel Slonina to be at this point in his career, playing games with the U20s. But the flip side of this coin could be that Matt Turner, as we are hearing, may be headed to Arsenal at any time. And he may have to leave this camp to, go sign a deal with Arsenal. Now, whether or not that is wise to allow your second choice goalkeeper to leave. Listen, there are no games for Arsenal right now. This is a 1-week camp. If something happens to Zack, Steffen, I'm not really comfortable with Sean Johnson in World Cup qualifying. I would rather have Matt Turner there. And I'm not sure we should allow him to leave. But that is just pure speculation on my part, that could be why we have 4 goalkeepers. Maybe Gregg also feels that, Slonina has a very high ceiling and is somebody he wants with the team long-term, maybe even in Qatar. And so he wants him to get used to, the roster and being around these guys and building comradeship and camaraderie and familiarity with them. I can see the argument for that. So I don't really know why there's 4. But I think it's worth noting that these are some different possibilities, right, of why there are 4 goalkeepers here. Let's move on to the fullbacks, right? Sergino Dest, Antonee Robinson, Reggie Cannon, DeAndre Yedlin, and Brooks Lennon. So much to say about this. We have, as I believe it, 4 right backs and 1 left back. I don't understand this. I'm glad, obviously, Sergino Dest, DeAndre Yedlin, Antonee Robinson, no problem with. Reggie Cannon, interestingly, has been playing as a right back in a sort of 3-man back line for Boa Vista recently. Okay. I guess you could have him here. It just doesn't really make sense to me right now when you already have 3 right backs, unless you're planning on playing him as a center back, which I would be very surprised if Gregg Berhalter plays Reggie Cannon as a center back. I don't think he's a center back, so that's quite baffling. Brooks Lennon has, for his entire career, been anywhere from a decent to good MLS right back. Brooks Lennon hasn't played a competitive game of soccer for almost 3 months. Now, Gregg in 2021 consistently in press conferences spoke about players being in form and fit and playing well for their clubs in order to be worthy of a call-up. Clearly, the inclusion of Brooks Lennon over Joseph Scally, who not only has been playing consistently as a higher level, but is younger with a much higher ceiling and has been playing games and is match fit. Yes, I know he had COVID in December, but he's played 2 games since then. He's clearly back. All right. Joe Scally was called into that last roster. Didn't play at all. So for whatever reason, Gregg does not appear to see anything in him. Now, who's our backup for Antonee Robinson? We have 3 games in a week in very difficult conditions. Do we sacrifice Sergino Dest at right back to play him at left back if Antonee Robinson needs a backup? Because right now, I don't see that being a very good idea. I don't think Sergino Dest has been very good on the left, either for Barcelona or for us. We get way more out of him at the right back. And we had Joe Scally, who can play both right back and left back. Yes, I don't love him at left back, but as in an emergency situation for us, if something happens to Antonee Robinson or Antonee Robinson needs a rest, or God forbid, Antonee Robinson gets injured in the opening game, we're going to have to move Sergino Dest over to the left, which we've seen is not ideal. We're going to lose a lot of what he gives us down the right. And I just feel like Joe Scally is more deserving of a call-up than Brooks Lennon. But like I said earlier, familiarity counts with Gregg. If you are in camp with Gregg, just by virtue of being in MLS, you get more brownie points. Clearly, we've seen this over and over again. There should be no question in anybody's mind anymore that it's about form or fitness or performance, okay? Because Brooks Lennon being here does not equate to making sense of any kind. What Joe Scally has to do, and look, Joe Scally's not perfect. He has weaknesses. He just made a mistake last weekend, okay, against I think it was Bayern Munich. I don't remember the team it was against, but he did make a mistake. That doesn't mean you don't ever call him up, right? So those are the fullbacks. 4 right backs and 1 left back makes absolutely no sense to me. I guess you'll have to use Sergino Dest as a left back. I hope Brooks Lennon doesn't get minutes. He didn't even manage to look good against Bosnia, right? Against Bosnia's C team, okay? Largely from their domestic league, which, by the way, guys, in the UEFA coefficient is like 35th in UEFA or something crazy, their domestic league. So that should tell you a little bit about the quality of that league. I talked to Bosnian fans who didn't even know most of those players. So, major questions about this fullback group. It's not terrible, but I think Joe Scally should have been here, over Brooks Lennon. All right, let's dig into the center backs. We have Mark McKenzie, Walker Zimmerman, Miles Robinson, and Chris Richards. So this is no John Brooks, I guess, is the big takeaway from this one for me. It begs the question, is John Brooks finished with the national team? It appears that way after being left out of the last two rosters. I know that John Brooks wanted to be in this roster. I know that he has been playing regularly for his club and playing quite well. At least in the last couple of games, he was a significant improvement on his fall form. I've been on the record as saying that I have concerns about John Brooks defending on the turn, right? When the ball is played in behind, he's not always very good at getting back. That being said, every single one of these defenders also has weaknesses, right? Walker Zimmerman could be a lot better with his feet. So could Miles Robinson, right? Neither of them has really been tested at a very high level outside of MLS. Mark McKenzie hasn't been playing for the last month. The last game he played was before Christmas. So he's not playing regular games either, which leaves one center back, Chris Richards, who's been playing regular games. That, to me, seems risky, okay? Now, listen, I like Miles Robinson and Walker Zimmerman, and I think they should be here, right? Truth be told, I wouldn't mind bringing 5 center backs. I think John Brooks would have been an additional option. On top of that, there is nobody in our center back pool that can distribute like John Brooks. Now, rumors have flown about John Brooks having attitude problems. I'm just going to say this. I don't know all the details. I'm not in camp. There's rumors all over the place. Maybe some of them are true, but attitude problems to me are very subjective. All right. I've heard coaches say that a certain player had an attitude problem and another coach saying, no, there was no problem with him. So whether or not he has an attitude problem or he's bad for the roster, I don't know. I don't have enough information to speak to it. But I think that just because a tabloid says that there's attitude problems doesn't mean we should all believe it necessarily. He might. It might be the case. Okay. Is he bad for the roster? I don't know. But I do think you're talking about 4 center backs, only one of whom has been playing competitive games regularly. It's a little bit of a risky move, especially going into the kind of games that we'll be playing in. Okay. All right. So those are the center backs. Let's move on to the midfielders. We have a lot of midfielders, 8 of them. Tyler Adams, Weston, McKennie, Yunus, Musah, Christian Roldan, Sebastian, Lletget, Kellyn Acosta, and Luca de la Torre. Now, I'm very happy. I'll start off by saying that Luca de la Torre finally got called up again. The real question with this midfield for me, and everyone knows how I feel about Christian Roldan and Sebastian Lletget, not only have they not been playing, not only did they not contribute much to anything in 2021, okay, their performances were largely subpar, very subpar, I would say, bar 1 or 2 good performances, right? But they haven't played a competitive game for a couple of months now. And for everybody who's going to argue back with, well, they've been training with Gregg, that is true. And that's good that they've been training. They will bring their fitness up a little bit. And yeah, they had some scrimmages. But guys, every year, what happens in CCL, right? We say, oh, the MLS teams are at a disadvantage because they're just in the beginning of their season, meaning that their match sharpness is not there, right? We always say this. This is a, continuous refrain. Not only are these guys not in the beginning of their season, they are in pre-season, right? Same with Kellyn Acosta, let's be honest, who just moved to LAFC, apparently against his will. Now, Kellyn Acosta being in the roster, I can tolerate, simply because I don't think anybody has truly stepped up to be that backup to Tyler Adams. I also don't think we've tried enough people as a backup. I don't think Wes or Yunus or Luca or anybody else has really gotten the look, or even like a guy like James Sands. But although Kellyn Acosta was inconsistent, right, in 2021, sometimes good, sometimes not, it's hard to make an argument for anybody not on the roster coming in instead of him. So I'm going to tolerate Kellyn Acosta's presence and hope if he's on the field, we see Gold Cup Acosta, not World Cup qualifying Acosta. And to be fair to Acosta, a lot of his performances in World Cup qualifying have come at the 8, which is not his natural position. Although against Panama, he did play as a 6, okay, at least for the first half. So, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. No, against Panama, he played in the second half as a 6. I do not want Christian Roldan or Sebastian Lletget here. But the question should always be, who should be here instead? for me, Gianluca Busio, and a guy like Georgi Mihailovic, who was the number one assist, was number one in assists in MLS last year, deserve more of an opportunity. We've seen Lletget, we've seen Roldan, we know what they can do. Roldan didn't even manage to look good against that same Bosnia team, okay? Playing 10 men most of the game. Roldan has not had a good performance, in my opinion, this year, apart from maybe one assist in the Gold Cup, which is a very different situation. Luca De La Torre, will he play? He's been in the roster before, and I'm glad he's here, but he got 12 minutes in 3 games the last time he was in the roster. So very little time to impact the game, although in 12 minutes he did set up 2 good opportunities, right? Will he play? That remains to be seen for Gregg. And look, Christian Roldan and Sebastian Lletget, all the evidence we have is that they are going to contribute very little. Now, that being said, Lletget had 45 good minutes against Honduras, right? If we remember away. That's the only performance in 2021 of Lletget that I can remember him actually having a meaningful impact on the game. Kellyn Acosta, despite being inconsistent, had 2 or 3 good games in the Gold Cup. Could this be the window that either Lletget or Roldan has another good game? I'm going to remain open to that possibility, but all the evidence that we have says that these guys should not be here anymore and are simply getting preferential treatment by Gregg because they are his guys. And again, it's not about performance. It's about whether or not Gregg likes you. So that is baffling as always, but I can say at least I'm glad to see Luca De La Torre here. The issue is this: Tyler Adams, Weston, McKennie, Yunus, Musah are the starters, right? Our MMA. If they need rest, right, which they will need, okay, 3 games in a week in very brutal conditions, right, which we have put on ourselves largely, and that's a whole nother conversation. Maybe I'll talk about that at the end. Who comes on? If Luca De La Torre comes on, there might be a drop-off, yes, but it's not a big drop-off. He's still a guy who can come on when a team is bunkering, and El Salvador and Honduras will bunker against us, and he's a guy that can pick a lock, that can play in tight spaces. He has the technique and the vision and the ability to do so. From Lletget and Roldan, we don't have that. So my worry is we don't have enough quality depth here to really impact a game. Let's get into the next one. Forwards, 8 forwards. So lots and lots of forwards. Jesus Ferreira, Gyasi Zardes, Paul Arriola, Ricardo Pepi, Christian Pulisic, Jordan Morris, Brenden Aaronson, and Tim Weah. So these are the forwards that we have. I like this forward line largely, but I have some questions, okay? Weah, thank God, is back. He played 22 minutes in midweek. He has another game with Lille this weekend, likely to get more minutes. Brenden Aaronson, top 1% of ground covered of all midfielders in Europe. Excellent to see. Jordan Morris was one of the few bright spots against Bosnia and was playing for Seattle, but again, hasn't really played in any competitive games in the past couple of months. As a super sub, I don't mind Jordan Morris as a 4th option. Gyasi Zardes and Jesus Ferreira are the backups to Ricardo Pepi. Now, Zardes is also just Gregg's guy, right? He's had decent moments in 2021, but has not been consistent. Jesus Ferreira just got caught up in the last window. Had a pretty good year with Dallas, but again, for both Zardes and Ferreira, they're out of season. They are in preseason form. Paul Arriola spent most of 2021 being largely ineffective, right? And also is out of form and out of season. Why is he here? The only argument anybody can make for Paul Arriola, in my opinion, is that if you are 75 minutes into a game that you're winning 2-0, you can rest a guy like Christian Pulisic, pull him off, put Paul Arriola on. He isn't going to give you much in the attack, but he will be a hard worker and do a defensive job for you. My counter argument to that is that if you wanted a defensive presence on the wing, we have like 4 right backs. Sergino Dest is playing right back. You could put, scoot him up to the wing and have DeAndre Yedlin play right back. So now you've got 2 right backs on the field doing the exact same job. What's concerning to me is that a guy like Paul Arriola, and this applies to Lletget and to Roldan and even to a degree to Zardes, continue to get roster spots despite not showing that they can contribute, right? There's no, including so many of these guys completely flies in the face of Gregg's argument that, form and fitness matters, right? And being in form and playing well for your club, because they're not playing because they're in the off season. And yet 13 of them made a 28-man roster. That's about half. Now, again, we have to see who actually plays. But in a 3-game window, okay, 3-game window, Pepi can't start all of those games. I think he'll start 2. But what happened last time we started Zardes in Panama, right? Pulisic, kind of injury prone, playing in the cold. Probably shouldn't play as many minutes we would like. Weah coming back from injury. Morris, we'll see how that goes. But, Paul Arriola, and again, even though we think of him as a defensive player, that's not how Gregg has used him in the past. All the evidence is that Paul Arriola either starts or comes on when we need a goal. Remember against Jamaica, 1-1? Who do we bring on? Paul Arriola. I don't know if anybody remembers how that went, but it didn't go well. Look, maybe Paul Arriola and Gyasi Zardes are now due for a good quality performance, because even though we haven't seen, especially from Arriola, maybe they'll have a good game in this window or score a goal or get an assist. Again, I hope so. And that would be the exception rather than the rule, because all the evidence that we have from them in 2021 is they just aren't cutting it at this level. And they are here for reasons other than their performance on the pitch. Let's talk briefly, guys, about the winter coming up. Okay, I'm going to Google this right now. Current temperature in Columbus. Okay, because this is the first game. It is 23 degrees. All right, and it is, what do you call it? It is sunny, 23 degrees, so below freezing. The Thursday forecast is the high is 30 and the low is 22. Let's hope that benefits us. But the one I'm really worried about is the current temperature in Minneapolis, because that is the one that we are very concerned about. Currently 14 degrees. Though we don't have the weather report yet because it's more than 10 days out. But next week it's going to drop to minus 18. On Monday, minus 13. On Tuesday, minus 18. 5, 14, 14, all the way through Friday. That is not a good sign for that game. Why we continue to put these games in freezing cold temperatures, I have talked about before, but it's, for me, not the best decision. So, guys, this is the roster. Is it terrible? No. A lot of the guys that we wanted to be there are there, minus Joe. Oh, wait, one more thing on these strikers. I thought we should have brought either DK or Pifok for something different, right? We saw this against Jamaica. When Pepi's having a bad game, or the game you can't play on the ground, it's an aerial game, who's the best guy to bring on? Probably Daryl DK. I don't know why Daryl DK is not here. He has been training regularly with West Brom since he moved on the 1st of January, so we're talking 3 weeks now. Again, Zardes is Gregg's guy, but I think, although I think that DK has technical limitations, I still think that DK is a guy who, with 20 minutes to go, if you need a goal, you bring him on and you change up your style. You play more direct. You have him hold up the ball. You pump more crosses into the box, because he can do that kind of a job for you. It offers variance in how you can attack. Not having DK, having Zardes, Pepi, and Ferreira basically means we can only attack one way. So I don't know. I have questions about this. So the guys I would have wanted to have on here more are DK, Scally, Busio and Mihailovic probably are the guys that I would have had on here. But for the most part, the guys that I really, really wanted to be here are here. Brooks is another question mark for me. I want him here, but I don't know enough information about what's going on behind the scenes to be like, he absolutely has to be in this roster. It is sort of a time will tell kind of situation. That being said, there are a lot of guys on this roster who shouldn't be here, right? Lletget, Roldan, Brooks, Lennon, Zardes, Arriola, and I've given options about who should be there instead. Now, in Ariola's case, we already have 4 wingers, and Jesus Ferreira can play winger too. So I don't think we need to be a 5th one, but if you're Gregg's guy, there will be a spot for you. And maybe, and I hope that he will only be used defensively, right? He will only be used as a last-minute defensive addition to a game, because he has demonstrated in every other way that he's not effective. All right, those are my thoughts, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Oh, yeah, I also have to tell you about this is very, very important. I completely forgot to tell this to you, and I'm not sure why it's not working now. But we have a very important announcement. Filippo mentioned it on his. DraftKings is going with us to sponsor a USMNT jersey, okay, for all of you guys. It's going to be a competition. So you need to go to the DraftKings Sportsbook, okay? That is the app. Download that app. And when you sign in, use the promo code TPPN. Remember, TPPN DraftKings. That is the promo code. Use it and download it, or download the app. Use that promo code to gain entry into this giveaway. This is a USMNT brand new giveaway. One from Filippo, one from me. So make sure you use that promo code. There will be a second entry on Twitter. So go follow me on Twitter. I'm going to put up a post about it, which you will like and retweet. And that gives you a double entry and basically doubles your chances of winning this jersey. So again, that's DraftKings Sportsbook. And the promo code is TTPN. Let me see if I can throw this here on the screen for you guys so that you can see this yourself. Share screen. All right. I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. That's the one. DraftKings Sportsbook, promo code TPPN. Do not forget. Thanks for watching, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this roster in the comments. 3 games. Let's get the 7 points. I hope we can do it. You guys have a great one. I will talk to you soon.